Hi, today we're going to talk about some hands-on resources to learn web application pen testing. I ran into this website called Security Academy, which is a free training website powered by Foursquare, which produces Burp Suite pretty much by chance. But it's a very good website where you can practice web app pen testing and especially some common vulnerabilities like SQL injection and cross-site scripting. I started going through the SQL injection vulnerabilities labs on my own, and I warmly recommend you to go through these pages. They're very well done, and they offer you both theoretical and hands-on examples. Here you have all the explanation related to the vulnerability. And you can see we got a lab where we can practice the concept displayed above. I already solved the series of labs by myself, so I already know what the solution is, but I'm going to show you live how to solve some of these labs just for you to have an idea of how useful this website can be for your career as a web app pen tester. So this is the first one, and we see the description of what we need to achieve. I won't recommend you to base your solution on the first page where the theory is explained, because that's where you need to start from. So now let's retrieve our hands-on lab by clicking this button here. This button will practically load the simulation where you can practice the solution to this test, so you can better understand the concept behind the SQL injection vulnerability contained in this page. Okay, this is the lab we need to work on. Going to the description, we see that when we select a category, only the released items are selected. There's a part of the query saying released equals to 1, which is true. Now what we want to do is having access to all the items released or not. So we want to manipulate this SQL query here. And in order to do that, we need to start from the statement. Now, all coming before the equal sign is something we can access. So we want to change the URL in a way that allows us to achieve our goal here. The problem with this syntax is we need to URL encode the statement because all the spaces are encoded as plus signs. And in fact, this doesn't work because we have spaces and they don't work really right in a website. So now what we want to do is add in this value 1 equals 1, which always results equal to true, of course. we're close, but this is not the solution. Now the two dashes at the end of the statement are a comment, so all comment after that will be ignored. And my error was there was an additional space, but that's the way it looks like. If we add or 1 equals 1, it means released or not released. So in other words, show me all items. I see there are naughty items we're not supposed to see, but we can access them just the same. So that was one first lab we went through. Let's see something that's a little more interesting, and we're going to work on a login field, practically bypassing login authentication in this case. Very important, I repeat, is having a look at the page generally describing what you want to practice here. Now let's load the lab. A little bit of patience, bear with me for a second. All right, there we go. So let's now work on the login field. So let's click account login, of course. That's what we want to work on. So this is pretty much simple. All we need to do is log in as administrator and enter practically 2 single quotes in the password field, which means a blank password. Because everything coming after the 2 dashes you see after administrator will be ignored. So practically we'll be able to log in regardless of any password we enter there in the password field. The reason why it didn't succeed is because I added an extra space which wasn't supposed to be there. And in fact, there we go. It says, "Hello, administrator. Thank you." Okay, so we solved another one. That was pretty straightforward. Now, this looks like pretty optional, but I went through this page because union attacks are very used, especially to move from SQL injection to PHP reverse shell. So I want to recommend you to have a look at this page. So first of all, in a union attack, we need to understand how many columns we have. So that's the first query we want to work on. Of course, you have the solution in case you're stuck, but I normally recommend you not to look at it as a first resource. Try to go through the possible solution by yourself and then compare your solution to the one that's stated there. Well, I'm not against cheating if it's about learning, because if you get stuck, you don't get to learn anything. But it spoils pretty much the whole fun, because the learning process is what matters the most for hackers like me and others. I mean, that's the most important stuff you need to achieve, more than the result per se of your learning process. All right, so now we try to understand how many columns we deal with in this database. And the reason why the null field is used is because it's pretty much a neuter file type that you can replace with anything. So you'll notice that I'm using plus signs instead of spaces, because that's URL encoding. Otherwise, our input will be refused. Now here I have an error because that's not the right amount of columns. So we gotta keep going and adding more columns until we have a complete description of the database. Actually, there also was an error. I had omitted a comma there. And so this is the solution. We have 3 columns. If we added an additional column, we'll have an error because the 4th column would be out of range. Now we have another lab based on the previous one, which is to understand which column in the database contains text. You see solved because, like I said, I already solved this stuff earlier by myself. Alright, so we need to find a column containing this text, a string essentially, within our database. So let's start by choosing a random category, and we're gonna add in this injection point here after the equal sign. Now let's move from this example. Remember, we had 3 columns in the previous case, so instead of having 4 columns like here, we're gonna work with 3. So here we have a random string A. In our case, we need to work with a different string that is given in the example. So I always start from this explanation because that tells you what you gotta do, basically. And practically what is going to explain here is that we start determining the first column as the one containing text. If we have an error, we move to the second column, then to the third, and so on and so forth. until we're successful. So let's keep doing that. So let's replace this A with the string you need to retrieve. So we solved another lab and we noticed the second column was the one containing the string we needed to retrieve. Let's now move to the next lab. Now we're going to use the union attack to retrieve all username and passwords from the users table. And then we're going to log in as administrator. Always have a close look at the explanation of what you need to achieve here. It's very clear, I like it a lot. And it's a very useful guide for you to keep in mind. Because that's the query we need to implement, basically. You'll notice we need to practically retrieve data from another table called users. And this is our successful attack. You notice that we were able to retrieve all database users and their passwords. Of course, we're interested in the administrator account, so now we're gonna log in as administrators to successfully complete the lab. And this is the solution. Cool, isn't it? Let's now move to our next lab. And you notice that in this case, we want the values separated by a field like a dash in this case, so we can understand which one is the username and which one is the password. I didn't do it before, so I'm going to do it live within this video along with you guys. So let's have a look at what we need to achieve here. And let's load our lab. So this is the page we need to work on. And of course we need to use the category field as an injection point for our attack. And this is our successful query, pretty much the same as before with this separator field additionally, which changes compared with the previous lab. And this is the solution. So this is our last lab. I'm going to leave the other ones to you as an exercise. These labs are a lot of fun, so I warmly recommend you for you to go through them and learn from them as much as you can. I personally enjoyed them a lot, and I think I'm going to keep going through them also for all concerning XSS and other major vulnerabilities, because I can get better at doing my job if I understand better what these vulnerabilities are all about. And at the end of the day, this is the purpose for this kind of website. It's not learning per se, but learning applied to being a web app pen tester. So if this is what you want to do, I would recommend you to go through all these exercises and have fun doing them. So at the end of the day, if that's what you want to do, this is a great tool for you to learn. Okay, that's it. That's all I got for you today. So until the next video, have a good one. Bye bye.